Good day, class. It's Sir Capistrano again, and welcome back to another lesson for our Math 1 Statistics. And for today, we will be talking about measures of location. And by measures of location, these are actually the quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. We will be also talking about other topics or related topics regarding these measures of location. And to give you an idea regarding these measures of location, these measures of location actually just locate certain values that identifies the location or what we call positions of certain data or certain numbers or certain measurements in our data array. So in measures of location, we can actually divide them into this three measurements wherein we have quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. And these measures of locations actually determine what we call the cut-off points. So i- the general term for this cut-off points is what we call quantiles. Okay. So by quantiles, for example, we have here quartile. Quartile is an example of quantile. Deciles are actually examples of quantiles, and so is percentile. So in quartiles, we will actually be dividing the data array into four parts. Say, we will be having three cutoff points, meaning to say, we will be having three quantiles. So ano ba yung sinasabi natin diyang cutoff points? So, for example, you have this measurement. When we say that this is your data array, say this part is your data array, when we say that we will be having three cutoff points, it just means that we will cut here. So this is one. We'll cut here. This is two, and this is three. And as you may notice here, we actually divided our measurement or our data into four portions. So wherein we will have here uh, three quantiles wherein we will have here our first quartile, our second quartile, also called as our midjan, and we have here our third quartile. So those quartiles, those first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile are actually what we call the cut-off points. So wala tayong fourth quartile kasi yun yung dulo na yun, ika 100. So ano bang ibig sabihin lang nitong quartiles natin? So if we use quartiles, and our example course per se is, let's say, your exam scores. If your teacher says that your score fall behind or nag-fall siya under yung tinatawag natin first quartile, ano bang ibig sabihin nun? If you may notice here, this, kung isusulat natin actually to as percentages, halimbawa, this is 0, this is 100. If someone says that your score uh, fall below the first quartile, ibig sabihin, your score actually is belongs to the bottom 25% of all of the scores. Meaning to say, if your score is located, say measure of located, is located below the first quartile or Q1, it just means that your score belongs to the bottom 25%. So that is how we look into these quartiles. So paano pag sa second quartile, it just means that this is 50 and this is 75. That is for quartiles. And for deciles, we just be splitting the data array into 10 parts. Meaning to say, if your score is below the second decile, or between the first decile and the second decile, it just means that your score is belongs to the 11 to 20% or the second part of the decile. And for the percentile, it also works that way. But imbes na apat or 10 lang yung magiging hati natin, we will have there 100 parts. Okay? So actually, percentile is the most used measure of location when we are dealing with scores of students. Because by percentile, we will be dividing it into 100 parts. It means that we will be having 99 cut-off points, and it also means that we can locate the data more accurately. Meaning to say, if your score, if you use percentile and it says that your score it belongs to the to belongs above the 90th percentile, it means na kung ito yung ano natin, yung data array natin, and say this is the P90 or the 90th percentile, it just means that you belongs to the upper 10% of the class. So, ganyan natin ginagamit yung ating measures of location. And by measures of location, syempre, dapat alamin natin kung paano natin to i-quantify or paano natin to isosolve mismo. So, in that, we actually use this formulas. And for these formulas, this actually belongs to the ungrouped data of or ungrouped quartile, decile, and percentile, wherein we will be using this formula. By formula, this is just the rank value, just like our median, wherein we first compute for the median rank value before we identify the median. So in here, we have here for quartile, we have here k times the quantity n plus 1 divided by 4. And for decile, we have here k multiplied to the quantity n plus 1 over 10. And we have there for percentile, that will be k multiplied to n plus 1 over 100. As you may notice here, pag quartile dapat 4, pag decile dapat 10, pag percentile dapat 100. Uh, it is respective to their definitions, wherein we need to divide the data array into 4, we need to divide the data array into 10, and we need to divide the data array into 100. So in here, ito lang yung mga formulas para sa rank value natin. Pero paano natin mismo makukuha, or how do we compute for the quartile, decile, and percentile themselves? So here is the step-by-step computation of the measures of location for ungrouped data. So first, just like median, we first need to arrange the scores or the data according to the magnitude or size. Therefore, we will be having our data array there. So next, we need to compute for the position of the given quantile in the distribution using rank formulas. So it depends on the quartile that you need to compute. For example, for if you need to get the third quartile, you just need to change this value into 3. Then you have there your sample size, then plus 1 divided by 4. So that is how it works. Then starting from the lowest score, locate the score corresponding to the obtained position or rank in the data array. In case of rank with decimal places, interpolate to get the score of the obtained position in the distribution. By interpolate, we'll be using this linear interpolation. By linear interpolation, wala tayong y dito, so medyo madali siya. So wherein our x will be equal to LB, or that should be second V, the lowest value. Then we have there our f, that is the functional part of the rank. Then we have there our highest value or higher bar value minus lower value. So, paano ba nangyayari to? Pakita natin later on. So, ano yung sinasabi natin fractional part? There are some cases kasi class that we may encounter n that is actually a decimal place. madali sana kung 0.5 lang yung magiging ano natin, magiging rank value natin. But in some cases, we may encounter this scenario wherein, for example, we have an n which is equal to 12. Then we need to get the third quartile. If we are to compute for the rank value of the third quartile, that will be actually be equal to 3 multiplied to 12 plus 1 divided by 4. And if you are to compute that, you will have there 13 times 3. So we will have there 13 times 3. That will be 39 divided by 4. So you will have 9.75. And as you may see here, hindi 0.5 yung nandito. So hindi natin magagawa yung ginagawa natin dati katulad sa media na halimbawa, yung naunang value mo, ah, halimbawa yung ninth value mo ay tawag dito, ninth value mo ay 10. Tapos yung 10th value mo ay 11. Tapos ang nakuha mong rank data ay 9.5. You just need to get the average of this. And pero paano kung 0.75 na? 0.25, ganyan. So, paano natin gagawin yun? So, in that, you will be using this fractional part for the interpolation. So, let's say that instead of 9.5, we have there a rank value which is 9.75. So, anong gagawin na natin dyan? So, we just use that formula. So, to compute for that third quartile, so we will have there our lowest value, wherein we have there 10, then 12. So lower value natin ay 10, plus we use that fractional value which is 0.75. So we have the 0.75. Then we just uh, get the higher value which is 12 minus 10. So we will have there 2. So we have 10.75, then we have there 2. Then we just need to multiply that 0.75 into 2. So we will have there 1.5 plus 10. So our third quartile there will be 11.5. So yun yung interpolation natin. So ang layo niya dun sa sa magiging sagot kapag ang kinuha lang natin ay yung average nila. Kasi kung isipin mo, pag average lang ng 10 and 12 yung kinuha natin, that will be 11, not 11.5. So that is how we will be interpolating later on. So I have here this example. Actually, an examples. Isang data array pero medyo madami yung i-compute natin. But in here, let's just do the first step. So the first step is you just need to arrange data. So I have here ages of 10 employees in a certain company. So we will have there 40, then we will have there 45, then 46, then 48, then 51, tama ba? Then 53, then we have there 54, then 55, we have there 58, then 59. So check nga lang natin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, yan yung first step. So our next step is we need to get the rank value first. So unahin na muna natin yung mga quartiles natin. So for the ranks, unahin natin muna yung sa ating Q1. Okay? Or dun sa ating first quartile. So for our first quartile, our K is 1. So meaning to say in our formula, wherein our quantile, or para hindi tayo malito, our locant will be ito yung K. We will have there our K here. Then we will have here our N plus 1 over kung ano man yung ano natin. Kung ilan natin beses silang i-divide. So in here, we have there 1 and this is quartile, meaning to say we will have there 1 times ano yung N natin? N will be 10. plus 1. Then let's just divide it by 4. So basically, this is 11 divided by 4, which is actually 2.75. So we done there our second step. So we need to locate the 2.75th value in this distribution. So bilang ka lang, this is your first value, second value. So ito na, second. Kasama yung 45, then we have their 46, yung third natin. So ibig sabihin yung 2.75 ay nandyan sa pagitan nila. Pero hindi gitnang gitna. So, ang next step natin, since ito ay a decimal place, we need to interpolate. So, meaning to say, our Q1 there, will be our LV here, or lower value, this will be our higher value. Then, what will happen is we get the lower value, which is 45. Then we just need to add that to 0.75. Bakit 0.75? Kinuha lang natin yung fractional part kasi kinuha na natin yung 2. Ito na yung 2 natin, yung 45. Then, that will be 46 minus 45. Okay, so that will be 1. 1 times 0.75 is 0.75 plus 45. So that will be 45.75. So that will be our first quartile. Okay. So for the second quartile, halos katulad lang din ito ng pagkuha natin ng median. So that will be same concept. So we will have there Q2 will be 2 times 10 plus 1 divided by 4. So this will be 22. Okay. 22 divided by 4 will be 5.5. So we need to locate the 5.5 fifth location. So that this will be 3, 4, 5. So ito, yung fifth value natin. And nasan yung 0.5? So in between sila nung ano natin, 5 and 6 na value natin. So kung gagamitin natin interpolation, pero pwede nyo rin naman kunin na lang yung ano nila, yung average. So pag kinuha nyo yung average nila, we have there 51 plus 53, that will be 104 divided by 2, that will be 52. Pero i-check lang natin kung ganun lang din ba yung magiging result sa interpolation. So we have there Q2 will be equal to our lower value here. So that will be 51 plus the decimal or the fractional value here. So that will be 0.5. Alright. Then we have there 53 minus 51. So that is 53. That is our HV. LV natin ay yung ating 51. So, this will be 2. Okay? What is the 0.5 of 2? 0.5 times 2 is 1. Meaning to say we will have there 52. Same scenario if we are to uh, compute for the average of those two. Okay? And for the third quartile, so same scenario, we will have there 3 times 10 plus 1 all over 4. So this will be actually 11 times 3, 33 divided by 4. That will be 8.25. Okay? So, again, meron ka na namang 25th. Ano? So, kung magbibilang tayo, this will be 7, 8. So, in between siya ng 8 and 9th value kasi 0.25. Pero gaano kalapit dun sa 55 or gaano kalayo dun sa 58. So, interpolation ulit yan. Wherein we will have their Q3 will be the lower value, which is 55, plus our fractional value here, which is 0.25. Then, we will have our higher value, which is 58 minus 55. Okay? So, we will have there 3. Tama ba? 5 minus 55 will be 3. Then, we have 3. We just need to multiply that to 0.25 or 0.25. So, that will be 0.5. 75, meaning to say we will have there 55 plus 0.75, which is actually equal to 55.75. So that will be our Q3. Okay? And the same principle will actually apply for D4 or fourth decile or seventh decile in our fifth decile. And pwede niyong hulaan yung fifth decile nyo kasi yung median din lang yun. So, fifth decile is actually 52. And also, that will be the same for the 50th percentile. Okay? So, as you may notice here, Q2 is actually equal to our median and is also equal to our fifth decile. Ba't ko dyan sinusulat? But anyway, so this will be para dun sa lang sa mga properties or dun sa mga ano nila relationships. So we have there Q2 is actually equal to our median, which is actually equal to our fifth decile and is also equal to our 50th percentile. Okay? So, kumbaga, kapag na-compute nyo na yung Q2, meron na kayong D5, meron na kayong P50. And also, meron pa bang equal? Ayan, yung P25 actually that is equal to our first quartile. Kasi 25% and 25% is just 1/4 of 100. And also, uh, same with the first quartile that is also 1/4. So, pakita ko lang kung paano i-compute yung ranks nila. So, let's show how to compute for the rank of the fourth decile. So for fourth decile, our locant will be a decile, and that will be fourth, meaning to say our k will be 4. Then we still use the sample size, which is 10, and we have there plus 1. Then with the divide that by the number of divisions of the locant. Our locant is, or our quantile is 10. That means we need to uh, divide it by 10. So what will happen here? So we will have here 10 plus 1 is 11 multiplied to 4. That will be 44. 44 divided by 10. That will be 4.4. As you can see here, 0.4 na naman yung fractional natin. So pakita lang natin kung paano natin siya ito interpolate. Again, okay, gamit lang tayo ibang pen. So we will be using the fourth, which is 48. So that will be our LV there. And fifth value, kasi in between siya, which is 51. This will be our HV. So for the fourth decile, okay, so get the lower value, which is 48. Then you just need to add that to the fractional, which is 0.4. Okay. Then we will have 51 minus 48. Okay. So we will have there 48 plus 0.4 multiplied to 51 minus 48, 3. Okay. So you just need to get the 0.4 of 3. If I'm not mistaken, this is 1.2. Check ko lang ha, para sure tayo. We will have there 3 multiplied to 0.4. So that is 1.2. Okay? So, meaning to say, 1.2 plus 48, that will be 49.2. So that will be our fourth decile. Meaning to say, ayan, 40%, the bottom 40% of your ages is actually 49.2 years old and below. So, ganun natin siya ginagamit. Okay, kasi ages yung pinag-uusapan natin dito eh. Okay, so for the quartile, ibig sabihin lang yan, 50% of the second, dun sa second quartile, ibig sabihin 50% ng mga employees have an age, or the lower 50% of the employees have an age of 52 years old. Parang ganun. So, Ganun lang din naman siya sa higher. Kung sa higher, parang sasabihin nyo lang dyan, the the upper 50% of ages of the 10 employees has an age of at least 52 years old. So, ganun natin siya pwedeng gamitin. Okay? So, same yon para dun sa iba pang percentile. Okay, so try natin. Gamitin natin or compute natin yung P70. So, for P70, our locant is 70. So, we will be using 70 there. Plus times 10 plus 1 divided by, since we have their percentile, so our quantile is percentile, that means this is 100. So we will have there 11 times 70, 770 nga ba yun? 11 times 70, 770 divided by 100. So that will be 7.7. Okay? So meron ka na namang 0.7. So interpolation ulit. So your P70 will be 7, 7, 7, 54. Okay, so that will be your lower value, and 55 will be your higher value. Okay, so you have there 54 plus your fractional value, which is 0.7. Multiply mo lang dun sa difference ng higher value and lower value, which is just 1. Sulat na rin natin. So 55 minus 54, that is 1. 1 times 0.7 is 0.7, meaning to say we will have here 54.7. Okay, so that will be our 70th percentile. By 70th percentile, it just means that the lower 70%, or the ages of the 70%, the ages of the 70, wait lang, hirap kasing i-construct pag ages eh. The lower 70% of uh, of the 10 of the ages of the 10 employees is at most 54.7 years old. And the higher 70% of the ages of 10 employees is at least 54.7. So, ganun natin siya magagamit. Okay? So, that is our quartile, deciles, and percentile. And as you can see here, kaya hindi ko kinompute yung D7 kasi equivalent lang din siya sa ating P70. So, ibig sabihin, our 7th decile here is 54.4.7. You can actually check if you want. Wala namang problema yun. So, that is how we compute for the ungrouped quartile, decile, and percentile. So, again, if you have any question, don't hesitate to send me a message on our group chat. So, if we have ungrouped quartile, decile, and percentile, syempre, meron din tayong group data. So we have here quartile for group data, wherein just like the computation of median, we will be using the CF, the frequency. We will be also locating the quartile class. So in here, ganun lang din yung gagawin natin. Halos parehas lang siya. So kumbaga, you just need to construct the accumulative frequency in the table of your group data. Then you need to determine the wanted quartile rank. So quartile rank natin dito, hindi na tayo mag-plus 1. You just need to divide, hindi lang dapat n over 4 ito. This should be k n over 4 to locate your rank value. Then you just need to identify the quartile class containing the rank value, then determine the LB, the CF, the frequency of your quartile class, your interval, and your class interval, and the end. Okay? Tapos i-apply lang natin yung formula. So unahin na natin yung sa F dahil ang CF natin, na-construct na yung CF. So mas madali na to. So we have there 25 yung ating N. Okay? Since 25 yung N natin, say we need to compute for the first quartile. Baguhin natin yung kulay ng pen kasi masyado siyang malabo. Let's say we are to compute for the first quartile. So to compute for the rank value of our first quartile, that will be equal to our 1 divided by n times n, which is 25 divided by 4. And as you may notice here, 25 divided by 4 is actually 6.25 ba? Check ko lang ha. So we have there 25 divided by 4, tama, 6.25. So our rank will be 6.25. Okay. So anong next na gagawin? Nakuha mo na yung 6.25. Ang gagawin mo na lang ngayon, hanapin mo yung CF that contains the 6.25. And 6.25 here will be this class. Asan yun? Hindi siyempre sa 3. So dito siya sa 11. Okay? So this will be your first quartile class. So i-note mo lang siya. Kailangan mong tandaan kasi kung alin yung quartile class natin. So, na-determine na natin ang quartile class natin. We just need to determine for the LB, CF, F, interval, and tapos tayo rin sa N. So, for the LB, that is the lower boundary. So, kung kukunin natin yung true class boundary nito, so this will be 10.5 to 15.5. Yun kasi we'll be using 10.5 as our LB. So, our lower boundary is 10.5. How about the CF? That CF here is actually less than CF. It just means that you need to get the CF of the class before your median class. So meaning to say this will be our CF. So our CF here is 3. Okay. So how about the frequency? For the frequency, you just need to get the frequency of your quartile class. So that will be 8. Okay. So how about the I? Naituro ko na yung technique na to. So that will be just get the one class or the lower boundaries of two classes, then you just need to, or consecutive classes, you just need to get their difference. So, pwede nyo rin yung i-apply sa ibang, so halimbawa, dito yung natripan nyo, 31 and 26. 31 minus 26 is actually just 5, so we have there 5. Okay? So, that is our class interval. And for the n, banggit na natin yung kanina, we have there our 25. Then, using the formula, our first quartile will be equal to our LB, which is 10.5, plus our KN divided by 4. Pwede nyong kunin na lang to kasi yun din yung ginawa natin dyan kanina. That is our K, our N, our 4. So we have there our 6.25 minus our CF, which is 3, divided by our F, which is 8. And that whole quantity is actually multiplied by our class interval, which is 5. So technique, kung paano natin compute, kunin nyo muna itong nasa taas. Lagyan natin ng numbers kung ano yung uunahin. So this will be the first, yung i-compute nyo. Then without exiting the calculus, divide it by 8. Okay? Then multiply it to 5. Then add it to 10.5. So, pakita lang natin para maniwala kayo. Okay. So, we have there our calculator. So, sabi natin, let's just first get the difference dun sa taas. So, that will be 6.25 minus our 3. So, enter mo lang. Dire-diretso lang. So, that will be 3.25. 3.25 divided by 8. Okay? Then multiply it by 5. Then add it to your LB. So add 10.5. So kahit yung calculator na pangtindahan ang gamitin nyo, hindi kayo problema sa pag-compute nito. So we have there 12.53. Okay? So this will be equal to our 12.53. Okay, so bakit ko ina-advocate na tuloy-tuloy na computation sa CalQ? Ano lang yun class, para lang ma-avoid lang natin yung ating tinatawag na rounding of error, or in dun sa rounding of error, minsan kasi yung ibang estudyante, habang nagpo-proceed sila sa computation, nira-round off na nila yung yung kanilang mga na-compute. That is actually incorrect. You will may cases na iba yung makukuha niyong sagot kaysa sa totoong sagot. Okay? So we have there our 12.53 as our first quartile. So pwede niyo pagpraktisan yung yung iba pang quartile class natin diyan. So you can do the second quartile and third quartile. Also, this that system is actually also true for decile. Almost the same method of computation, but instead of 4, you will be using 10. Okay? Since you will be dividing the data array into 10. Also, that is the same process as you may notice here. Okay? And if you are to compute for any decile here, say 4th, 5th, and 7th decile, same system lang actually may encounter nyo nung nag-compute ako ng first quarter. Medyo tedious lang nga lang talaga siya. Okay? But there are some applications in which you can compute that, but still you need to determine the LB, the CF, the F, the I, and the N. So that is the most crucial part of this measurement, determining this set of values. Kapag hindi mo alam yan, or hindi mo alam kung saan kukunin, hindi mo rin mako-compute yung group data natin. Also, the same for our classes. Mapaka-quartile class man yan, decile class, and percentile class. Kapag hindi mo alam kung paano i-compute yung, or hahanapin yung classes na yun, hindi ka makapag-proceed sa computations mo. Basta, kunin nyo lang yun yung rank value. Pag kuha ng rank value, tingnan sa CF. Hindi sa F. Sa CF nyo titingnan kung nasaan yung inyong decile, quartile, or percentile class. And as you may notice here, the same formula actually applies for percentile, but instead of 4 or 10, we will be using 100. Okay? So, uh, same process. And as you may notice here, sa sobrang same ng process, nag-copy paste ako, hindi ko siya napalitan. So that will be PK or the percentile class. Okay? And we have here our related topics. Actually, this is just extension of calculations for analysis regarding quartiles. Okay? So, in which we'll be talking about Midhinge, Interquartile Range, and our Quartile Deviation. And I'm not sure if I added outliers in this slides. In any case, we have here our mid-hinge. Mid-hinge is actually a measure of central tendency, as you may notice here. By measure of central tendency, you will be using the first quartile and the third quartile for the computation of mid-hinge, wherein it is used to overcome the problems introduced by extreme values or outliers in the dataset. Kasi at some cases, sabi nga natin, nagkakaroon tayo ng extremely small or extremely large values in comparison to the majority of our data. And to do that, to have a meaningful measure on how you can locate the center, we can actually use our mid-hinge and use the first quartile and the second quartile by getting the average of the first quartile and the third quartile pala. And in here, since yung first quartile and third quartile mo ay nasa 25th percent and 75th percent ng iyong data array, mas ma-avoid mo yung mga extreme values na tinatawag natin. And for mid-hinge, uh, say we have this example. So we have here this data. And in that, you just, to compute for the mid-hinge, you just need to determine the quartiles. So, pwede nyo i-check kung ito nga ba yung first quartile natin and and third quartile. Our first quartile there will be 47. See, parang mali ito. But in any case, and our third quartile is 56. Parang mali nga ito. Check nga natin, class. Alright, so our first quartile, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, first quartile we have there, k is 1 times 9 plus 1 divided by 4. So, this will be 10 divided by 2.5. Okay? Then, 2.5 ay 1, 2.5. 46, tama naman. Okay, 47. And for the third quartile, so we have there 3 times 9 plus 1. So we have there 4. Okay? So that will be 10 times 3, 30 divided by 4. That will be 7.5. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 55 plus 58. Since 0.5, we can actually use the interpolation. So we have there 0.5 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 58 minus 55. So this will be 3, 1.5, 56.5. Our third quartile there is 56.5. Question ko lang sarili ko. But in any case, the mid-hinge there will be 47 plus 56 divided by 2. So our mid-hinge there is 51.75. Okay? And if you are to compute for the average of this data array, actually medyo malapit naman yung makukuha nyo dyan kasi we don't have any extreme value here. Okay? And for another extension of understanding of quartiles, we have here interquartile range. So for interquartile range, ito naman ay measure naman ng dispersion, just like our standard deviation and variance and range. But for this one, again, we will be utilizing the third quartile and the first quartile, wherein you just need to get the difference between the third quartile and the first quartile. Okay? It is actually used in constructing box plot. Pag may time tayo next time, let's look into the construction of box plot para may bago kayong graph na pwedeng ipakita. So, it is also used to overcome the problems introduced by extreme values or outliers in the dataset when computing range. Again, this is stronger than range, pero hindi siya ganong kasing strong ng standard deviation and variance. Though ang standard deviation and variance kasi affected sila by extremely small or extremely large values. Alright? So, in that, using the same data, using the same first quartile and second quartile, for the interquartile range, you just need to get their difference. So the IQR here is 9.5. As easy as that. As easy as kapag sanay kang mag-compute ng first quartile and second quartile. Alright? And for the last other topic, we have here quartile deviation. This is again a measure of dispersion, but it is not usually used in analyzing the dispersion of the data. It is also computed by dividing the difference of third quartile and first quartile. So cannot be used to infer about the population when computing QD on sample. Ang ibig sabihin lang nito, kapag halimbawa kumuha ka ng sample ng students sa Candelaria Campus in comparison with the population, if you compute for the QD or quartile deviation for that population, that QD will not describe the population. Hindi ko na-explain kung bakit, pero ayun, pwede nyo siyang i-avoid. Don't use quartile deviation to represent population using data set that is taken from a sample. Okay? So for an example, using the same example wherein we have there Q1 which is 47 or first quartile which is 47 and third quartile which is 56.5, the QD will be or the quartile deviation will be 56.5 minus 47 divided by 2 which is 4.75. Meaning to say, uh, quartile deviation, oh, di ba? Ang galing ko talaga. Kinapi-paste ko rin to eh. The blank, the quartile deviation is 4.75. Okay? And for your assignment, you have this data. So for your assignment, you need to compute for the quartiles, the first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile. And you need to compute for the 30th percentile, 60th percentile, 70th, 70th, 75th percentile, fourth quartile, fifth decile, and seventh decile. Also, you need to compute for the Midhinge, the interquartile range, and the quartile deviation. And if you have any question, again, don't hesitate to contact me through our messenger. May it be sa GC or direct message sa akin. So, okay lang yun. Okay? And in that, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.